It's election day. Doge is up 13% on the day. Does that mean that it's so over or that we're going to win?
Bro,
Feels like we're at the Super Bowl.
If Trump loses, Doge is going to, is it going to do anything but shit the bed, bro? You just lost your biggest memeable thing, which was, the Department of Government Efficiency is now dead, man. That is that's super negative for Doge, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited to have this conversation so we can share some uninformed takes and some misinformation so that everyone is a little bit more confused by the day. Chris, how you feeling this morning? How you feeling about everything so far?
I'm feeling good, man. It's election day. You have to be patriotic here. This is the United States of America, so one way or the other. It's a great day. I'm super excited for it. I think there's a lot of momentum. And I don't know, the American spirit's been in the shadows for a little while, so it's good to feel it again. Feeling pretty patriotic.
That it absolutely is. If anyone wants to join the conversation today, just come up on stage and we could sit here and chat. I pulled up Polymarket. It's pricing a decisive Trump victory right now, 60.9% in favor of Trump, 39.3% of Kamala Harris. I've been actually looking and following Polymarket pretty closely the last few days because there's a few interesting narratives that I've seen happening in this election cycle specifically. One is that you have kind of Hollywood and corporate media backing Harris, and then you have content creators and podcasters backing Trump. It's really kind of like a defining moment of the internet era. And then more importantly, on top of this, this is the first real election cycle we've had prediction markets be out in the public from crypto standpoint. And also in America, they're legal through something called Kalshi. So you now have the pollsters versus the prediction markets as well. And they're completely on opposite ends. I've been looking at the last few days. Every single pollster this morning predicted Harris. Every single prediction market has Trump. So it's like, does the internet know more, or do these traditional insiders are the ones who have the better takes now? I think it's really a defining moment of, regardless of who wins, of showing that there's a rise on the internet in terms of, professionalism.
I lean into nobody knows anything, but the prediction markets, when these start moving, if they start moving in the other direction, Trump's in trouble, right? This is the one where the money's going to move in the end, right? And so as kind of official results start rolling in, obviously this is going to move, and because this is 100% to zero, right? So this is going to move where the money's actually going to go. And so I think right now this is the one to watch, obviously, because this is the one where people are kind of taking in all this data and betting with their funds. And so this is going to be interesting to see. What was this yesterday? Was it similar to this yesterday, or has it moved a lot since yesterday?
It was around the same of this. I think it got up to 63% in Trump's favor, but it's been quite decisively Trump pretty much this entire way through. I do like how they put this map here where you can see the states.
Did you go to Casey's Twitter? Did you see what he put out today?
Casey Rotemore?
Yeah.
No, what'd he do?
He did a map of the U.S. and I guess outed himself as a staunch Democrat.
Oh, really?
Crypto Twitter was not happy with Casey. Let's put there have been a lot of negative takes. People aren't so happy with Casey maybe right now. And his fully Dem map was not well received.
This one's kind of funny too with the Pepe. Yeah, Casey. I mean, granted, he lives in Oakland. He lives in San Francisco. Probably not surprised by that one bit. But he definitely does not talk like a liberal. That's for sure.
Hey, what's up? Lucas is on stage. What's up, man? Haven't talked to you in a while.
Hey, I got a question for you guys. Did we know what the poly markets or the betting markets were in 2020 or 2016? If we look back at those historically, I think you could actually determine whether those are accurate to look at versus today. Because if people were betting, somebody else was going to win in 2016, you could be like, oh, okay, well, they were betting that Clinton was going to win and then Trump won. And then if they're betting Trump was going to win in 2020, then, and Biden won, that means they're kind of like disjointed and maybe they don't really mean anything. Those people are probably just degenerates, but you never know. You're right, by the way. I would think the people betting would be smarter than all these polls. There's no doubt about it,
Yeah, we look at it. I was like, been watching a bunch of videos and interviews. I was reading that for the polls this year have been about 15% heavier Democrats in terms of those being surveyed. And the reasoning is that conservatives aren't answering the phone when they go to take these polls, right? But then you think, okay, that, polls are a little bit heavier Democrat, but then the prediction markets are definitely more conservative, or they're more heavily influenced by independents, because those are the type of people who are partaking in, crypto.
For sure.
So each side has a skew. It's just, which opportunity is right. But I agree with you, everybody as well. You think those who are acting on, new information, have definitely, and they have an incentive to bet, would eventually kind of gravitate towards what the final outcome is. I guess in the prediction markets of 2016 was Augur, but it wasn't really that popular. I don't even think there was that much liquidity. Ended up getting shut down. 2020, I think Polymarket launched in 2020. So I don't know what the stats were from there. I haven't even seen them post anything about it, so I don't know if they had election odds there. And then Kalshi just got legalized in America literally like a few months ago.
So what is that? That's another Polymarket clone, basically?
No, it's what you could bet with US dollars.
But you could bet with, okay.
Yeah, I guess there was like some sort of court ruling that they got overturned recently from this team, to where
it's not crypto related. It's just a betting market, basically.
It's like the only US sanctioned or US regulated betting market, prediction market.
Gotcha.
And just popped up within the last few months.
I mean, if I could short Polymarket, I would right here, because we've seen traditionally these things just die completely. They're huge around presidential elections. And then, the previous 2 cycles, they've just gone away, basically. They've vanished. Whether or not they can keep, I mean, they may have something different this time, but it seems to me all presidential related, other than just people do kind of like little side bet stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, so look, you could see, so on the 3rd, it got to 56% Trump, 44% Harris. And, now it's widened a little bit. I want to dive in a little bit. Obviously, Chris and I both live in Nevada, in sunny Las Vegas. And that's it's literally the one of 2 spots here on this map that are a toss-up. Trump has the lead in Nevada, 52% to 48 Harris. It was literally 63% yesterday. I took my first Polymarket, or actually second Polymarket bet ever. I went favored Trump on Nevada. From all my friends that I've talked with, everyone's in love with Trump down here. I don't know.
It's interesting. Like the good thing about that bet, right, is if you catch some wind of something, like you can get out of it, right? It's not like you are going to, you don't have the opportunity to not get out, right? It's not like a sports bet where you're locked in and that's it, right? You can actually, you see the tides turning. You can maybe get out of there and not lose all your money, or who knows, right?
Oh, baby, I'm holding this all the way to the end.
You're
win, lose, or draw.
Why? What triggered it for you? You were at the gym and you heard some women over talking who you would have thought for sure would have been for Kamala, and they were,
So here, I'll show you here on the live stream. So, my podcast before I joined Emblem was a Vegas-based podcast. So I have like 200 different interviews with different like influencers and things like that. One of my buddies, Jacob Orth, who does Jacob's Life in Vegas, he's the biggest, I guess you call him Vegas influencer, Vegas YouTuber. He has like 400,000 YouTube followers. He put up this poll yesterday: who's going to win Nevada? It's decisively Trump, 64%. And then the largest Vegas Twitter account, Las Vegas Locally, with 400,000 users, also put up a poll and said Donald Trump. It literally won again. This one has 16,000 votes. The other one had 6,000. And then between all of my friends that I talk with, this has been kind of the interesting divide between people in Nevada, and then maybe I'll ask Chris as well. You know, all my friends that work on the strip, right? The big thing between like Kamala Harris and Trump, at least the deciding factors that I think the discussion around the abortion issue, all the women that work on the strip that I talk with don't give a fuck about the abortion thing. They're all capitalists. They're all making, they're making six figures, serving drinks, and they're more pro-capitalist than a lot of the men really are. And so all the women that work on the strip, at least I've talked to, between like the bartenders and cocktail servers and just the industry workers, is all very heavily Trump influenced. Where the other side of it is a lot of my college friends who do not work on the strip are more Harris favored. So it's kind of like the region. All my friends who live in Summerlin as well are definitely pro Trump, which is probably what Chris has had or an experience. But Chris, what's your take of the people that you've talked with?
Yeah, I'm probably in a little bit of a bubble, but I don't see too many Harris supporters in my neighborhoods really, or anyone that I kind of hang out with. But it's pretty interesting.
Man, in your gated communities.
I don't see any signs. I haven't seen too many signs, but the betting markets are a great value add for the ecosystem, something that we didn't have before. It's interesting because it doesn't really represent the odds that they have to win. It's what you get paid to bet on them if they do win, right? Like Trump, there's a bunch of things that can go wrong before he wins the presidency, right? He can get elected. There's a bunch of mischief that can happen. What's interesting about Kamala is that if you want to go long a Kamala win, you don't really know what to buy. Like, it's not that obvious on the open market. And also if you want to go short, but on Polymarket, it makes it easy to have a one-way bet. If you want to bet Trump, you can go Bitcoin, you can buy DJT, you can buy all these other derivatives. But betting on Kamala for the economy is a lot harder. So just to go direct to Polymarket is a pretty good benefit for her. So in my opinion, you would want to see her, that's heavier than her odds to win the presidency, because you have to take into account all these other factors that you're not able to get exposure one way or the other. So I think Trump's looking good in essence here. I really like where we're at.
We're siloed here on X, right? I think I'm definitely siloed. Right, because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Insta, so I'm only here on X, and I think I'm being fed.
Mm-hmm.
I just think because what I like, right, which is and it's certainly on X and like even into Polymarket and stuff, right? You're getting crypto native people, which definitely leans more conservative to a degree, or much more libertarian in a large extent, right? So I'm wondering how siloed we are. My question to you guys in Nevada is did the tip announcement from Trump, right? No taxes on tips. Did that move the needle, you think, in Nevada?
I think so. I mean, Vegas is literally a tip-based economy. Yeah. Everybody in the entire city works off tips. Yeah. If there's one city in the country that's going to move the needle for, it's definitely going to be here in Nevada.
Yeah, I agree as well. I do think a lot of the women per se were actually more favorable towards Trump even before that. I mean, I worked at a nightclub for 5 years. Chris worked in a nightclub for even longer. And all my friends that are in industry workers are literally, I see all support in favor of Trump. I don't really see any Harris supporters. It's really more of my college friends that I went to UNLV with, which are the Harris supporters, and they work kind of outside the industry. Some numbers here. I actually found like a pretty legit Nevada list that somebody created. Also, Naval posted an election list this morning, which has a lot of like credible reporters. So I'm trying to, move outside of that echo chamber. So heading into today's early voting or election day, Republicans had a 40,000 vote lead, with 53% of Nevadans already voted through early voting. So last cycle, or in the 2020 election, Dems had a 42,000 point lead or something like that. So there's like a 5% swing in favor of the Republicans. And so some of the conversations is, did the Republicans all show up through early voting, right? And or right, or is there just like a much larger, Republican turnout? And so it looks like what Polymarket's pricing right now, actually, so it looks like Trump's actually dropped now to 45% chance winning. So that's not good for my bet. But
wait, what did you get in at? What was the ratio when you got in?
it was like 58% Trump. So it's down now like 20% or so. Right, which is not good, but there's still numbers to be determined. So what this is showing here, so Trump had a 41,000% or 41,000 vote lead, and right now election day turnout right now looks like it's pretty even. So 19,000 people have voted. I think they said that they expect about 100,000 people to vote by the end of today. So it's going to be down to the wire pretty closely here. And
those numbers, those are actually like the machine spitting out the number right there.
So this guy's like he's like some sort of reporter, I guess. He's been posting a bunch of numbers. It seems like this is who everyone's kind of following. So I'm assuming this guy is the one who's influencing the betting right now because it has a ton of views. The largest the interesting part is, so the largest or the most popular pollster in Nevada is a guy who runs something called the Nevada Independent. He came out yesterday and said that he believes Harris is going to win by 0.3%. Right. So everybody just comes down to like this toss up at the end of the day.
It's all just made up. Look at the numbers up there, bro. It's like Democrat, Republican, and then others 37%. You're telling me 37% of people voted for, I don't even know, Ron Paul? Like, that didn't happen, man.
Well, it's independence is, I guess, what it is, right?
I know, that's not right. That's wrong, though. This is just
So John Ralston, this is the guy who's influencing Nevada. He runs the Nevada Independent, which is like the popular independent one. He's the one that said that Harris is going to win by 0.3. So his things he said here: can Dems break even or win on election day in Clark? Will enough people in Clark vote for the GOP, who's in the lead overall? And then who are the independents voting for? Because obviously the independents are showing up the most on election day today. My opinion, I think the independents are voting Trump, at least, because most of my friends are all independents. I'm registered as an independent as well. So I guess we'll have to see. I think the first election, I think the first numbers of Nevada come out at in 2 or 3 hours. So you'll see Polymarket either heavily swing upwards of Trump, or it's going to basically go to zero, right? Yeah. Once those first numbers come out. But 41,000 vote lead with 55% of voting already done, right? Can Trump hang on? I guess is a big question.
So are you doubling down your funds right now as it drops lower? You're
Oh no, I just put it all in. I was like, one bet, let's go, like old school. It's kind of fun. I mean, for me, it's also just kind of like getting skin in the game. Like, if this is going to be around, like if Polymarket's going to be around for a long time, then we should probably learn how to measure voting and betting, or how to measure the bets and the forecasts and stuff like that. Well, it looks like they had Nevada blue a little bit now here. Harris has got the lead. That's still even with, so it looks like even with Harris as the lead, Trump is still up pretty massively.
What's it say for Pennsylvania? Yeah, go click on Pennsylvania.
60%. So I'll go to this is the tab that Naval shared with a bunch of different pollsters and looking at the different turnouts. I'm curious if there's going to be any upsets kind of as well. Looks like New Mexico is blue. Looks like for early signs. I didn't even realize that there was something called a Guam poll. I didn't even know that was a thing.
What, for the island of Guam? Like, if Guam always swings the elections, what's the Guam poll? What does that mean?
I don't know. I just saw it. There's so many of these small kind of districts that I didn't even, right? The Guam straw poll.
Biden won 55-42. That's, by the way, that's total number of people, right?
Probably.
It's
Yeah.
everybody on Guam. There's 110 people.
I saw something this morning. I don't know if you saw that. In New Hampshire has this like tradition where the smallest city or the smallest town votes first at midnight, and it's 6 people.
6 people.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And it was like the first time ever that it was actually 3 and 3. Like
Split down the middle.
and they were like, this is an indicator of like, they're like, this town is like an indicator of how New Hampshire is going to
They
vote.
predicted the last 25 presidents.
Right. These six people.
6 people.
What do you guys think, though? I mean, they say it's a toss-up. Do you guys think this is a toss-up race?
I don't. I personally, I thought for
I
a
don't
while.
think it is. I think there's a lot of propaganda. I mean, look at the reality is that Elon, Rogan, everybody burned the boats. They said, this is the election that we have to win.
Yep.
And if they're not able to get this guy in office, he never had a chance of getting in office.
That's
Before it was Donald Trump running for president. Now it's Trump, Elon, Vance, Vivek, Tulsi, RFK. He has an entire team. If they're not able to get him in the White House, he never had a chance. So,
I mean, for me, it's like, dude, if Kamala wins, like it is over. And do I think democracy's over? No. But do I think the machine has crushed all opposition? Yes. Like
I agree.
The
Totally.
U.S. bureaucracy has won and will never be toppled. Right.
I agree.
And so, that's for me what it's all about. It's just like this bureaucratic state, which we are now. And look, like living in Costa Rica, dealing with huge bureaucracy here. I've talked about it with friends and stuff here. It's like, how big does the bureaucracy have to get where you literally can't overcome it? And we have a lot of experience with that in Latin America and South America.
Right.
And it seems to be like this, like 30% number of like government employees, and whether they're teachers or, politicians or whatever, all that mix have such a vested interest in keeping the machine running that you just can't vote it out of office. And so the US, I heard, is like at 25%, basically government employees or work in some way for the government. So it's right up there, touching against that kind of tipping point. And if it gets there, like there's no going back. And so, unless you get a war or something, drastic happen. But, I don't know. It feels like we're there. And this election was very much a which way are we going to go as American people? And so we'll see.
I don't know if you watched the Elon Musk interview yesterday, but that's definitely on Joe Rogan. That's definitely kind of the message that he was portraying. I think Joe Rogan sees that as well.
Yep.
It's interesting when you look at kind of like the movement of where Trump is going. Right. He surrounded himself with mostly younger individuals as well. Right. Like Vivek is in his 30s. JD Vance just turned 40. Tulsi's like 42 or 43. Obviously RFK is older, but if he wins, right, RFK is not going to run next year. And you think about kind of like who the candidates will be next year. At least the potential, favorites would be like Vivek, Tulsi, and JD Vance for president next year. And that to me shows like a completely different vision to where the Dems are going to head towards. A younger generation. I think it would be better if we had younger candidates on both sides, to be honest.
Probably, yeah.
What's up, Lucas?
Yeah, let me be the voice of dissent for like 2 seconds.
You commie.
What would you guys? I'm not. I'm totally not. So I'm wondering, like, you guys think the world would end if Harris becomes the president? What do you think's going to happen with a guy who's literally running mostly because he's trying to stay out of jail right now? And I mean, that's his main motivation, is to literally stay out of jail. Once he becomes president, he's even said recently that he wished he never left. He should never have left in his comments on one of his rallies. And I know everybody's like, oh, don't take what he says so literally. It's like, well, you kind of have to take what he says literally. So like, what would you guys do if this guy goes, hey, I'm never going to leave as president, or hey, I'm going to do the things I basically said I was going to do on day one, and like start holding all these people accountable and putting people in jail that are his like enemies, or doing stuff. Let's just say he does like a few things that are really, really shady. Like, it kind of is impossible to remove him from office at that point if he starts kind of like putting stuff underneath him, and then making like people kind of like answerable only to him. Don't you guys worry about stuff like that?
No, because we've
I mean,
already
I
seen
think
we've already seen that shady stuff. That shady stuff's gone on for the last 2 years. Like the prosecution
it?
of Trump has been completely shady, bro. Yeah, so we've already
I don't know
seen
about
that.
that,
We've
man.
already seen that in action. So we
I
know.
mean,
I do
we know-
agree with I do agree with one thing. There's one thing I do agree with. You
Yeah.
can't change a law and then, make the statute of limitations like not expire out of nowhere. That's definitely kind of weird. If he's past the statute of limitations, that was strange.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could actually do that. So I don't think you can actually. So I
would-
think those are going to be appealed anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I think what most people are voting for if you're voting for Trump, isn't just Trump, it's the team that's around him. And the, 7, 8 people, notable people who've come out in full support of him are also going to be held accountable, if something like that happens. And obviously there's a gamble, right? Where, right, are you going to get the old Trump? Or are you going to get this kind of newer Trump that wants to quote unquote drain the swamp actually this time? To me, it's more of just betting on the team around it, which is, going to hold him accountable.
I mean,
It's funny you said that. He drained the swamp this time because he didn't do it the 4 years he had the first time.
the
Yeah,
reality
I mean,
is-
last time he surrounded himself with politicians. This time it's all outsiders for the
And
most part.
you don't really know where to look immediately. And Lucas, you were kind of asking, like, what would you do if he decided that he didn't want to leave office? Or how do we get him out of office? And that's actually exactly what he's running for, is to get the unelected bureaucrats out of office. They're doing to him exactly what you're claiming that he's doing to the country. And so this is kind of the opportunity to vote against that exact kind of attitude.
Yeah, I think you guys think that Trump is your punk rock in the 80s. I think you guys think that he's like your Rage Against the Machine, and he's literally not that.
I
Machine is on team control.
I actually think it's all generally evil.
I agree. I'm not saying anybody's clean, but I like people that are like civil and like. I don't want my politics to be WWE. I'm not watching politics. I'm not watching politics to get entertained.
Yeah, that day's gone though. I mean, Trump basically dropped a bomb on that in 2016, right? Like that. We've moved on from that. The days of like fake politicians, which I put it as just completely fake, which we grew up with. Like you and I grew up with this.
Yeah,
right? We grew up with completely fake. Right? You didn't know that a guy was fucking paralyzed. Like, dude was in a wheelchair. Nobody knew. Like, that's fake.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah. JFK was basically cheating on his wife and with everybody. Nobody knew, right? Like that. Those days are long gone. And Trump blew that up, and I think that's actually a good thing. I mean, dude, even if you saw Trump do that, fake BJ thing the other day, like, bro, that thing is like,
yes, that was funny for degens. I agree. But at the same time, do I want my president doing a simulated blowjob on stage while he's giving like a speech at 78? Like if that was your grandfather, 78 years old, you'd be like, "Oh, Poppy, stop it! Wheel him back to the home." That's what you would do.
Because what we're doing is we're tearing down. We're pulling down the curtain, so we're seeing what's behind the curtain, and what we're seeing is what's behind the curtain.
Man.
It's
garbage. He showed you what's behind the curtain. All right, dude. He showed you.
Garbage.
He showed a little.
And none of these guys is going to fix anything, and that's kind of the whole point. Trump's not going to fix anything at all. The only thing he maybe can do is take away some of this garbage. That's really my only hope. Do I think like Trump's going to magically fix something? Fuck no. But he may, I use a big may, be able to cut through some of this bureaucracy. That's what at least has been promised. Do I believe that promise? I believe it as far as I could fucking throw him, right? I don't trust any of those
okay, good. I was just going to say, I promise you, he's the fourth grader trying to become class president and telling everybody, no class on Fridays if you elect me, and recess is 3 hours instead of just 1. Everybody gets pizza for free all day whenever you want it. It's like, dude, he's just making all these promises just to get
but both
he stays out of jail then too.
So both sides do this. Actually, there was a stat that I saw a few months back where it was that politicians or presidents who run on these different types of policies generally pass about somewhere between 50 to 60% of the things that they campaign on. And Trump was actually much lower than what Biden and what Obama did. I think Trump was around 50%, where Obama and Biden were around 60%. If Kamala wins, I don't think the world ends. I do think it just means more short term to midterm pain for crypto, and then we'll be fine. I think long term, it's all fine. If you're choosing Trump, it's right. You're removing a lot of this bureaucracy, as Adam said, which is getting in the way of the industry. It's been in the way of everyone in this industry for the last 4 years. It for me, as a younger voter, it's not for me. It's not as much about voting on Trump. It's voting on this new direction of where the Republican Party is going. Like I see, this religious kind of aspect is now getting put into the back seat for more, populist type individuals, right? Like Vivek, who's a billionaire in the pharmaceutical industry, Tulsi, who is a veteran who left the Democratic Party, and she campaigned against Hillary Clinton in 2016 as somebody from her own party. And then JD Vance, who actually is somebody who's, very articulate and intelligent when you actually sit and talk with them. Like for me, those type of youthful leaders show a better representation than, maybe what the 4 years of what Trump will do. But Trump, at the end of the day, did inspire this movement and is leading it. So to me, that's kind of where that vote is going.
You know what? You said something interesting, and it's like, there were a couple of things. I think you're right about the media part where, because they went on these all these self-development / bro podcasts, they call them, which, by the way, obviously, I know what they're talking about. I have a bro podcast too, I guess. It's like you're interviewing like top-notch business leaders, entrepreneurs, stuff like that. Joe Rogan does that. He interviews like a broad spectrum. And once you brought Trump on, you saw that he was a lot more human. I think he got humanized on that podcast big time. I was surprised at how not crazy he was. I was like, what is this guy like just talking smack up on stage like a WWE wrestler? Go figure. And then when he's on a podcast, he was more of himself. But I have to admit, it also made it seem like, hey man, Joe Rogan asked the same question 6 times. He didn't answer it once. He still never answered the question that he had. So like, I think you're right. The battle against media right now it's gonna play out right now, right? So the mainstream media, totally true, is back in Kamala, and the other one is the broken media, or not broken media. I mean the new media. I think it's the newest media and the best media. It's the podcasts. It's all these like web shows and web series. It's basically a decentralized platform in a way, although they do all work behind the scenes together and like close big deals, and people go on different podcasts and they're part of podcast networks. But it's still like the new type of media that's making all basically making all the waves, making all the money right now. And mainstream media is like far behind. And we already know like linear broadcasting's fallen behind for the first time last year. I don't know if you guys saw those numbers, but currently people watch more content and watch more TV time through the internet than they do anymore through linear broadcasting. So it's kind of like this is going to prove whether or not Trump did the right moves by going on these podcasts, which I think he actually did, guys. I think those were the wins. And if he wins, like it will be cemented. The death of linear. You'll see the death of linear TV and the death of like all these like traditional broadcast television shows that are now on YouTube, but they're the same kind of content over and over again. This will be their gravestone.
Yeah,
I think it'll be the end of them.
I think you're right. I think they're already dead. Whether or not they can trickle along for another cycle, like it's possible. But we've already seen it. And it's again, it's this kind of move away from, fake news. Everything's a 15-second soundbite to you get people talking for 3 hours, right? And you get to discover a little bit about the real person, right? They're still fake, but in the same way we're all fake. Everybody has a mask, right? And everybody's trying to push a narrative, right? We all do that. But you get to see more of you get humanized to a degree on a 3-hour podcast, which is impossible on a 5-minute CNN interview, right? I think it's already been won. How kind of the next 2 decades plays out is, okay, how does this work in this kind of decentralized fashion with, these small cabals of people? Because, we all agreed, like Joe Rogan's one of the most powerful people on earth, right? He controls narratives, right? I mean, Should he be disrupted? Of course, right? Everybody needs to be. It's
And it
continual.
will happen at some point too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how it kind of moves forward, we all get to decide, and we do decide, with our eyeballs and with our time.
Yeah, I truly do think that it's, this is like this is why I was writing this yesterday on Twitter. This is like a defining moment of the internet era. It's really a showdown, right? Again, for the people who weren't here earlier, right? You have, Hollywood and corporate media is backing Harris, right? And then on the counter of it, you have all these content creators, right? Like Logan Paul and the Nelk Boys, and et cetera. And then the podcasters, right? Like Joe Rogan, are all about backing Trump. And then you have, right. And then you have kind of this like traditional journalism that's backing Kamala, right? Like the New York Times and the Washington Post and all this. And then it's meme culture is really all backing, right, Trump. And then it's the pollsters, which is the traditional way to get predictions on elections, are all, favoring Kamala, and all the prediction markets are all favoring Trump, right? And it's really, to me, it's just all these avenues of, that tried to sway elections traditionally now has a counterpart on the internet, which is also kind of battling back. And it's really fascinating to see because, depending on who wins, I think that's a really big showdown. And if Trump does win, then it just shows that the internet actually finally has more power, which we always knew. It's just depended on how long it took to kind of coalesce to that.
Yeah. And I mean, people need to die, right?
Yeah.
Old people who still watching CNN, like they just have to die. They die away, right? And our kids, my kid who's 18, has never seen CNN. Like he doesn't even know what it is. It doesn't exist, right? When he votes, he's voting based on what he's seeing on TikTok and YouTube. So yeah, the new era is here. It's just it takes a little while to kind of kick in.
Yeah. Side note here, we're getting some volatility in Nevada. Trump is now back in the lead on the polls in the prediction markets.
He's not going to lose Nevada.
I don't think he is. It's just funny. Again, the note here is there's a lot of volatility, and they're all reacting off of what they're reading from these few pollsters and a few data. I think that's really just fascinating. Is people have actually finally now have data, and they're making, financial decisions on it. And you're seeing it now go back and forth. Trump was up literally 66% yesterday. Then he just dropped down to 42. Now he's back up to 51% as a toss up, all based on it. Really, the one thing that I love about crypto is the financial entertainment aspect of it. Like I have so much more fun seeing, looking at charts and then seeing the reactions of people on Twitter than I do like watching stuff on TV. I just find it so much more interesting and entertaining.
Everything's better with gambling.
Yeah.
Pete Rose was right, dude. Everything's better with gambling.
Yeah. Well, they let him into the Hall of Fame now that he's dead.
Really?
Didn't he passed away like last month or 2 months ago?
Oh, are they going to let him in now?
And I said, do you think so? Do you think they will? Now that the world is hyper gambling, everything's betting, right? Everything's monetized. Do you think they'll finally let him in?
Probably not.
I think so.
I hope
banned forever. Yeah, they also tore down UNLV basketball under the same premise as well back in '91, even though it was never proven. But there was that picture of the 91 championship UNLV basketball team in the hot tub with like the most popular underground bookie that ever existed. Pretty incriminating, but there was never proof there. But everything's now hyper gamblized. That's why I thought maybe they finally let him in.
All I see on my Twitter feed related to gambling is bad beats and how the NFL is rigged, man. That's all they talk about. It's how the NFL is rigged. I think the latest one, I mean, to your point, it's like now that it's involved, every game is like heavily bet on it. And all these like sub bets during a game. I think it was like the Miami game this last weekend where Tua had to pass for like whatever, over 245 yards to win his bet. Last play of the game, they're down by 7 or whatever. And so they have 80 yards to go on the last play. He throws the ball like 20 yards forward. Did you guys see this play? He threw the ball like 20 yards. Cheetah then pitches it to Waddle. Waddle runs backwards like 40 yards and gets tackled. It was like a negative 25-yard play, and Tua lost. You lost that bet, and they were just like, "This is so rigged. This is so rigged, man."
Yeah, it's interesting. As betting has definitely taken over Vegas. Betting was in Vegas, and then once it was legalized, I don't know if you've seen like the charts of like the average American bets. I saw something the other day. It was like the average American bets like $300 a year. It's like spread across everybody, which is kind of wild. But with the proliferation of betting markets, I always wondered. I'm sure this is exactly what Polymarket asks as well. It's like, how does this become the next sport betting app, right? I could see 5 years from now, Polymarket has a sports betting app or a prediction market app, and people are putting different types of prediction markets, and like what is kind of the popular form of that outside of just elections. It is interesting. And when you go into some of these, like I'm gonna click on Wisconsin and Nevada are the only two that are currently gray on this Polymarket map. You could come in and look at the comments, which is I come in, read, and it shows you kind of like right, who's betting on what. There's definitely a lot of bots in here. And the one thing that I've been doing is I've been going in and looking at setting like a minimum amount, and then I'll come in and look at like Donald Trump, or I'll come in and look at Kamala Harris. And the one thing that I noticed, and this was a lot more prevalent in the overall election, is that all of the big money is on Trump. Like all of the biggest bets, it was like 7 of 10 100K bets were all on Trump winning, which I found kind of interesting. I don't really know what that means, but I did notice that there was a lot more kind of smaller bets, like between, let's say like $50 to like $200 were on Kamala, and then a lot of the outsized bets were on Trump. What do you think that means?
Could mean, I mean, I've heard people say, "Oh, that's actually, people who want him to win, placing those large bets so that when Polymarket is mentioned on CNBC or whatever, it's Trump in the lead," right? So this is a millionaire out there who can throw a couple million and just make a bunch of big bets to sway the market for basically promotional reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I mean, that's the beauty with, who knows what this is, right? Could be that. Could be the smart money too. Who knows, man.
See, like, look at this. I'm just going to read this out loud. So like the top 5 Donald Trump shareholders, you have one that has 29,000 shares, one that has, or 29 million, one has 21 million, 16 million, 13 million. And then you go to Kamala, and the top holder has 10 million, right? So you have 6 or 7 large shareholders over, that are just outsized on Trump over Kamala. Chris, what do you think this is as a betting man? Do you think there's
just for me, I mean, what it says kind of at face value, just coming in right now, it kind of just seems that people are willing to risk more serious amounts of money on Trump, which means that they're more comfortable with where he stands and what his messaging is. And I think that that's kind of indicative of Kamala Harris's campaign, is that nobody has a ton of high level confidence onto what her policies would be or what her message is. And so I think that that's kind of the disconnect, is you can bet huge sums of money on a predictable outcome that you're confident with if you know the whole message. But if you don't know the message, I think that that's kind of lacking from the Harris camp.
How much does Polymarket make on this?
That's what I was wondering too. I was trying to figure out what their take was. I do not know, to be honest. But I mean, the election has 3.3 billion in volume, and that's not outstanding volume. That's like all-time volume, because what you realize on this is that, you could buy a share at, right? I could buy a Kamala share at 40% chance and then sell it at 45% chance and make that, 5 or 10% spread. So there are a bunch of swing traders. And so when you buy, what I realized this yesterday, so if you're buying like no on Trump, or if you're buying no on Kamala Harris, you're effectively buying a put, right? So you're expecting like short-term volatility on the downside. And so for people who are buying these, they're expecting some sort of like news announcement, I would guess, to come out to where it's going to swing downwards, but then they're probably going to sell it but then the buying is those people who are like long-term yes, because when it's long-term yes, then it gets filled at 100%, which then that's when you get filled. So
Bro,
it's
the
kind of
smart
interesting.
time to buy it. When did she get? Was that in early July when it was like they were deciding? That was when Joe had the, you know,
Yeah.
when Joe, they were like, oh shoot, we got to replace Joe. Like that was the time to buy her, right? Like right in there at when she was 1%. That's
I
when
can imagine buying Kamala. So June 19th, she was 1.6%. Do you think there's any crazy person who bought this at 1.6% still holding?
Of course, definitely.
100%. Still holding, maybe not. Still holding, no.
You don't think so? You don't think? You don't think
40x? They were probably out, but yeah.
Bell's Coin Dev? What's your thoughts?
Oh, I was gonna say, um, like people, right? I'm not saying she's gonna win. I don't think she is, but wouldn't it, you know, if there's, oh my God, I can't speak. Okay, if the top holders of those shares, right, if they own a lot, right, doesn't it mean that there's generally probably less holders and it's more like whale focused, I guess, in crypto terms? So, like, let's say her top holder is 10 million. Wouldn't that mean that there is those that are holding her shares? There's a lot more people, you know, like what's the people count on those?
Interesting point, man.
That is a good point. Let me see if I could pull that up and find out.
Because people generally,
Total
you know,
volume.
I guess shares. Yeah, when voting wise, like shares don't matter. Like you know how much money you have, it's like per person. It's like quantity over quality voting wise.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So it doesn't show here. It just shows the top holders. That is actually, it's a pretty good question though. I'm uncertain.
Yeah.
I don't know. Prediction markets are getting a lot popular. You see, there's tons of them. There's a Bitcoin prediction market just popped up recently. Well, they use IZP, but Good has that. Farouk has their prediction market now. There's a prediction market on Blast. And I think these continue to grow. Although I think it's going to be hard to defeat Poly Market because they got the liquidity. Ultimately, that's kind of where everyone goes at the end of the day.
It's weird though. Polygon is underperforming, even though Poly Market is like you know exploding. I thought it would like create some movement in the Polygon like area.
You know, I resonate with what Adam says a lot, where he's like, it doesn't matter how shitty the chain is. If there's a successful meta that's going on, users will gravitate to whatever it is. You just generally got to be first, though, is generally the case. You're like the winning kind of product on
No,
it.
this is a great, and they timed it extremely well too, right before the election, because that's generally what you know intrigues people and what you know gets them all riled up. And if you can make it as, hey, this is the beginning of our betting platform, oh my God, they ate it up. Even Robinhood started doing it.
It's interesting. You know, from the elections as well, I was surprised that that there weren't more of these, but the prop questions that are generally on elections, I'm surprised that there wasn't like a betting market around those. Vegas actually has a big one for ranked choice voting. It passed. So I was researching this. So if it's a constitutional change, it has to pass 2 elections in a row. So in 2022, in the midterm election in Nevada, ranked choice voting passed. So it has to pass again. And it barely squeezed it out.
Ranked choice voting? What is that?
It's open primary. So this exists. This is it basically kind of it eliminates the 2-party system almost, or it creates a more fair ground. So it's only legal in Alaska and Maine right now. Nevada can be the 3rd if it passes. It is in some other states for the first time. So if ranked choice voting passes this time, it doesn't matter if you're a registered Republican or a Democrat. You can vote in both primaries, and you get to vote based off of the rank choice. And this also is in the general election outside of president. So we'll go to like the general election. So if ranked choice voting was passed right now, then you would go for, I think it's everything outside of the president. You basically rank 1 through 5 for, or this is in the primaries, actually, in the primaries. And, creates a more fair ground. There's some positives to it. There's some negatives. But ultimately, I think, at least the thought is that it helps eliminate the duopoly, right? And gets a lot better candidates in there, and also remove some of the power, because If it's like a Republican one, you could go in and rank all 5, even if you're not a registered Republican. So they have that one. I'm trying to think what other. There's like 7 or 8 in Nevada. But it's crazy because you see a lot of, at least on TV from some of like the football games that I watch, I see a lot of like ads for voting no on ranked choice voting. It's like the Republicans and Dems like super PACs.
They don't want that, right? Yeah,
they don't want it. They do not want that kind of thing. Because I mean, the thought is, so I became good friends with Andrew Yang. I had him on my show in Vegas. We did a live event a few years ago, and he's actually the person that's pushing it for his party. It's called the Forward Party, and he's told me that they've tried to do this for like decades across different types of states, and the Republican and Democratic parties always lobby against it and get it shot down. But Nevada can actually be the first one, or the third state, but the first one I think in like 10 or 20 years to get it passed. And they think that if it passes, then it will be kind of like a snowball effect for a lot of these other states.
Interesting. Never heard of that.
Yeah, ranked choice voting, man. Maybe we'll be like some of these. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what is the likelihood, since we're talking about elections and election wise? Like, I figured out the exact time, right? This is more for Adam. The Bell's coin halving takes place right when the polls close, like time wise,
so
like the exact same hour.
I know, it's like what, like 10 p.m. Eastern or whatever, right?
It's crazy.
It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. Dump, sell. It's all going to zero, bro. This is all.
Hopefully, it's not as
minors. Hey. We've been tricked. We've been psyoped.
My view is, since we've been selling off for the entire week, hopefully it's not a sell signal.
You could tell us, so Nevada people are definitely making their bets off of this chart, because as we've been watching this show, we saw that Trump swung down on this, like the Republican turnout, and now it looks like the Republican turnout starting to go back up. And that's why the odds of Nevada are starting to go back up. But it looks like for Nevada, just of an update, there's been 10,000 independents, 8,700 Dems, and then 8,300 Republicans. So it'll be interesting. These will be probably what I'm glued to over the next day or two. Yesterday I was like, what do I tweet about? And there's like, literally saw like barely any crypto content. I was like, I might as well save this for a few days because no one cares.
Well, I think you pointed out the right tweet, which is like Daniel Got Hits was like, I got my photon loaded up, ready to go for the whatever meme pops up today, because there might be some fun stuff happening in the meme space. We might catch a new meme here. Do
you think that meme would come from something like Trump's mouth, or to be something that like the Harris campaign does?
Harris can't make memes.
No memes over there.
No, zero memes, bro.
So what would you look for then? Like something funny that Trump says, something that he does, or like something that happens on the charts or the news, maybe?
I mean, it's unlikely because there's usually actually not much stuff happens on actual election day, because he might make a poll appearance, where he goes and votes, so it's unlikely, but something like this can always happen. So be ready with your Solana wallet for sure.
What happened to the cryptocurrency he launched? Did that go well? I literally know nothing about it or what it's called.
What was it? Liberty.
World Liberty Fi.
Complete disaster launch, honestly. I mean, I don't think 10% subscribed. He basically he didn't raise any money. He wanted to raise, $300 million or something. Ended up raising like 30 million or something, like just a nothing burger.
So it's not, is it going to launch later, or did it already launch?
I think they're still going to launch it. I definitely do. They got like 10 or 20% of what their targets were, but it's supposed to be some sort of borrowing and lending platform. I have no idea. I don't know
So
if you.
that was just a pre-sale then at the
It was just-
beginning. It wasn't actually
Yeah,
a launch.
pre-sale.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys watch. Do you guys ever watch John Oliver? Have you ever watched? Do you ever watch that? They did a. So it's on HBO Max. It's like a pretty liberal kind of comedy show, political comedy. They covered World Liberty Fi and and the launch and everything, and like the two of his co-founders on World Liberty Fi have like some wild some wild content online. Yeah, it's talking. He's like up. One of the guys is like up on stage talking about women need to make him sandwiches and shit. Just like some very just like outrageous things. It's great. It's crazy.
Well,
I didn't realize that the two co-founders were part of something called Doe Finance that got hacked in July.
Oh, really? No, I
Yeah.
didn't know. That's interesting. I do know that the KYC part of it was really, it was not fun. I actually gave up kind of midway through it. I was like, forget this, man. So there was a big barrier for entry because obviously he's concerned about, going to jail. And so they really tried to do it in a really kind of safe from a US perspective, I believe. And I think that turned a whole bunch of people off. While if he had just launched a meme coin or something like that, it could have been super successful. Just choices. And
Pump that fun.
yeah, dude. Seriously, if he had done a 90% pre-mined DJT token, it would have been hyper successful and they could have made tens of millions of dollars, no doubt about it. But he didn't, so it is what it is.
So NBC just came out and said Nevada's going to take weeks for results.
Oh
now.
my God. Kill me now, bro. Kill me now. Jeez.
Already starting it.
I don't think they'll need Nevada. I think it's gonna be kind of like, I think it could either be very surprising results, but definitely like if it's not surprising, it's gonna be by a long shot. Like I don't know what's
it's
gonna
gonna be a
happen. Nobody
landslide?
knows.
You think it's gonna be a landslide?
Yeah. It's gonna be a landslide, I think. So I don't think they will necessarily need these states that take
I
forever.
don't know, man. No, I just feel like that's our siloed Twitter's take. That take, which I feel too. I feel like I'm being fed that take on X, and that's not necessarily what it is. I don't know.
Have you noticed? I don't know if it's Poly Market or if it's like Robinhood that does it that way, but on Robinhood's thing it says they don't pay you out until January 6th because they're scared that the electoral voters will switch up.
Are you serious? Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so you don't get paid out until January 6th when the election is certified.
Wow. All right, makes sense.
Interesting.
Jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, it does introduce all these kind of like interesting dynamics, right? One of them dies, Trump has a heart attack and dies. Even if he won, then maybe they don't, who knows? All that stuff comes into play. Could happen.
Like imagine he wins, then randomly he dies before January 6th.
Yeah.
Those that bought like the 1% shares or whatever in between would make so much money.
Yeah. Interesting take. Yep.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting few days to a week. Maybe longer. I don't think it'll be longer than a few days, to be honest, but just hope that it's a landslide one way or another so that we can all kind of move on, or at least get over with the pain, or or send everything into oblivion.
Oh, hey man, if Kamala wins by a landslide, we know where we are.
It's going to be pain for like 6 months.
We are in a really struggling industry. Like I full like it is very possible we don't get adopted in the US. Like we're out of the US, which is really, really painful. That would be painful.
I mean, if the media has, obviously it does, but if it has any impact, look at how many millions of impressions Trump has gotten over the past week with just his interview, JD Vance's interview, Elon's. Talking about millions upon millions of impressions through the internet. Like if that doesn't have any blip in the outcome of the election.
Did your grandma see those, bro? No.
Right. You know what I mean? So like that in the past week, Trump's, I don't know, maybe gotten more impressions than Kamala her whole campaign of 8 weeks. You know what I mean? It's just massive. That's got to be like one of the biggest podcasts in the entire world. It's been out for like 6 days.
I think you got to go through things by how you least expect them, to turn out. Because like if we remember during COVID, everybody was like, great recession. and it turned out to be the best thing for the market. So, if he wins, it might not actually be the best thing for the market. And if she wins, it might be, So sometimes you just don't know.
That's
Yeah,
it. That's a good take.
There's like an interesting narrative I saw about Trump where if he does win and, Elon and Ron Paul, and him can successfully, cut a lot of the fat off from the government and reduce the spending, and then eventually start getting this, this interest rate curve going back the other way, that it could be, it could have a negative impact on Bitcoin long term because there's not the requirement to spend more money and print and do all these different things. But on the other side, obviously, then they're going to have favorable regulations for crypto, which I think is actually the more important thing here. Because I think that's what the whole industry has been wanting.
100%.
I mean, regulation over, infinite money printing, which might just happen anyways, no matter who's in president or who's in the office. But just at least give us, a goal that we can navigate through.
The money printing, I have zero question. If Trump will spend like nobody's, of course he wants to spend, but just like crypto being legal would be great. Like, can we make that happen? Like, that's all I want.
Yeah, it's
You don't ask for much.
I don't ask for much. Just can I not be in an illegal industry? That'd be awesome.
if Trump wins, it's going to be like crypto in 2013 again. We're going to have Ross is going to be free. Magic Internet Money is going to be a popular meme again, and the Mt. Gox coins are moving, which they moved yesterday.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, the government sent 2.1 billion in the Mt. Gox coins to an unnamed or unidentified wallet.
Lord have mercy.
Trying to dump before Trump.
Wow.
If they lose, they're just gonna nuke the market. One last one last kick through the door, one last shout. I think we'll wrap it up here. There isn't much more to say outside of just like make sure that everyone here goes out and votes, and that you make your voice heard for one party or the other. Long term, I think crypto will be fine. I think this is a general consensus, right? Long term, crypto will be fine, but obviously you want Trump to win for more favorable, it would be more favorable, outline or I guess regulations on crypto, or at least they'll be defined in a way. And Kamala is to be determined, where it's probably going to be short to medium term pain before number goes back up. But if Kamala wins, then obviously money printer is definitely happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they're just going to continue to spend. I don't know. Any final words, Chris? You got any final words, thoughts from how the day is going to go?
Happy it's here. Pretty confident in Trump. I mean, you have a ton of people that do not lose betting a lot that they don't lose. So I'm going to side with them. I think that's an easy bet. I think this is a free bet. I think if Trump didn't win, it would be a massive shock. And that's going to carry on for a long time. So I think it'll be over early, personally.
I hope you're right. But when I hear that, I just say, oh, God, man, run, bro, run. Because they were saying the same thing in, 2016.
The way that I think about it, I mean, you think just crypto alone, he activated millions of new voters that he didn't even have access to before across party lines. I mean, you're talking about the media. You're talking about he's activating the libertarian parties that are in some of these swing states that are super critical. I mean, he's literally left it all out on the field. If he can't destroy kind of the unelected bureaucrats in DC, then they're just too powerful, and we really just can't beat them. That's the honest reality.
Yep. I agree with you, man. I hope you're right, bro. Hope you're right.
I also side with Chris. I think it'll be pretty clear by the time that the Bell's epoch happens.
Oh, that's a good timestamp.
Are we running in space tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern?
I will plan on doing it. I think it would be great for the ecosystem.
Cool.
Yeah, you guys should run the election results and the Bell epoch.
Bell's chain can break at the epoch. Who knows how?
We're cutting the government fat. We're cutting the Bell's coin fat as well.
Dumping.
Hey, Dogecoin is up like 10% on the day. I mean, why shouldn't Bells be up 20%? You know what I mean,
bro?
Adam's got to get this thing on some more exchanges, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah, Adam has to stop selling. He's got 90%.
Well, the debate in the Discord is: should we pay for an exchange listing or buy Billy a Cybertruck with bells?
See, my view on
they're leaning towards the Cybertruck. They're like, "Fuck the fucking exchange listing."
Yeah, the Cybertruck is
bro. Adam, My view on it is Gate is the same as Mexi and all these other exchanges, apart from like Binance. So at this point, it doesn't matter. If they want to list us, they can list us.
Yep.
If they don't want to list us, let's just buy a Cybertruck.
I'm almost down, man. I just feel like, you know, people have donated with this idea of exchanges, and we kind of need their like hat tip that it's okay to buy a Cybertruck.
You could
You
definitely.
know how bullish it would be
on
if you
retweet
gift Billy a Cybertruck.
Dude, it would be
If
amazing.
you give Billy a
I'd definitely go up to Cali and hand him the keys. That would be amazing, bro.
Dude, we'd have to get you and Billy in a picture for sure. You have to get you and Billy in the Cybertruck. I think that's worth.
That would be amazing, man. No doubt about that, bro.
if you give Billy a Cybertruck that's wrapped in bells, he will 100% have to post it, which in turns will be good for bells.
It would. Yeah. And look, CZ yesterday came out and was like, you know, with the debate about, Coinbase said, oh, well, we don't, Brian, you know, came out with that tweet. Well, hey, we've never charged for a listing. And then he got dunked on by everybody, right? And CZ said, hey, look, what you should be doing is not worrying about buying your way onto exchange. What you should be worried about is building your community out and building the value out. And I actually completely agree with that. It's the right strategy. And maybe a Cybertruck for Billy is the right strategy. I'm not saying it's wrong. We're going to keep that debate open for sure. 100%.
Billy getting a Cybertruck. One final thing. I don't know if you saw Justin Sun. He quoted that tweet and he said that Coinbase said that he had to pay them $50 million and $250 million in a Bitcoin deposit for something to like.
Yeah, to increase their Bitcoin.
That doesn't even seem real. I don't like that's so much money for a listing. Like what? I don't know.
He's lying.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some shady shit that Coinbase has done. A lot of these crypto companies have probably had to do some not favorable things in the early days. But that's
you just see where these exchanges will be like, oh, it's not a listing fee, it's a marketing fee. You know, our marketing is $200,000. You know, you just realize what it is. I mean, yeah, they're twisting what's actually happening to a degree. But anyway, these are the power players. The exchanges they run crypto right now. So it is what it is.
Yeah, Adam, I know that you thought that the money was well spent on that Mexi Spaces. For sure, money well spent there. I do think Gate is a good choice, though. That is kind of where all the meme coins trade from centralized exchanges. So that would probably be a good one. The other ones.
But isn't Gate the same way as Mexi? Like it is banned in the United States. It's a KYC and it's banned in China.
Yeah, maybe. I just know that's where dog trades the most of, and that's like and some of these other meme coins as well, right? But obviously,
I see on my timeline, I see these like literally nothing coins that were created today, you know, get listed on these exchanges, and I'm just like, who cares, frankly, right? Like, are these coins going to be around in a week, let alone in a year or next cycle? Like, zero chance, right? So I don't know. I'm trying to take a longer term view here in what we're doing, rather than just rush into an exchange listing, which might not add much value. So yeah, anyway, we'll figure it
out. According to the Chinese, we're going to be listed on Binance by the 11th of November.
Bells has some base donators though, so I do have to say that. And without that, we'll wrap it up here. Please, everyone, make sure that you go and vote. We'll be back tomorrow, probably covering the same thing. Because that's probably going to be the only thing of discussion over the next week. I can't imagine if any crypto founders trying to launch a project this week, they're fucking insane. Like, there's no way you could get any attention over there. So we'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate everyone. Make sure that you're following the Emblem account so that you can hear more information about everything we did at Emblem Vault. Also, the pin post, a lot of cool and awesome announcements there. Have a good night, everyone. Please be safe. Do not get mad at whoever's house you go to for the party because you share opposite views. Just be very civil, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.